Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's first video, doing the second and final Spring 2021 Season 1 roundup for today's first video. So we can get 15 long-range models together and see what they're all showing for Spring 2021 for the final time, second and final time this season. And of course, it's ahead of tomorrow's Spring 2021 forecast. And yeah, we're going to have the forecast for you for Spring 2021 at 10 AM tomorrow. You'll be able to have a watch of that. So exciting times, exciting developments. GavsWeatherVids. I should get on with the Season 1 roundup for Spring 2021 for you in a moment. Just say that coming up later on today, we're going to have weekend forecast. So as also on Saturday, we'll have your weekend look ahead, and we'll have we're going to have a 10 to 14 day video update, including all of the regular features as well. And you'll be able to have a watch of both of those videos, later on today. This is going to be quite a long video, as always, with the seasonal stuff, so it will be placed on the Spring Updates page, hopefully later on today, with a written summary, and you'll be able to have a read of that and watch the video on demand whenever you would like to. Right, so let's get on with it then. I'm going to start off with the with CanSIP. So this is mean sea pressure anomaly for Spring 2021 from CanSIPs. This one going for high pressure to be within the northern latitudes. Low pressure is going to be to our south, and winds will be in from more of an easterly type direction. So blocked and potentially rather easterly with CanSIP's mean sea pressure anomalies for Spring 2021. Bear in mind, spring is like the most easterly of the seasons anyway, especially further on, but that does definitely indicate quite an easterly sort of spring is probable. Temperature anomalies with CanSIPs are only around average, near normal to average, maybe no signal. Northern Europe does look a little bit on the cool side actually for this spring, which I suppose you'll expect, especially early on with easterly winds. A rather drier than average signal for Spring 2021 as well, particularly to the north of the UK where we have that blocking signal. Right, look at some models from the NWME suite, which I have not shown you, I don't think, in any videos since we left off on the winter updates, actually. First one is NASA. We can only show you temperature and we only show you temperature and precipitation anomalies with these. No mean sea pressure or 500 millibar height anomalies. But NASA is going for a milder than average spring, above average temperatures. By the way, we're usually perched somewhere on the very edge of the chart, typically on the far right-hand edge of the chart, as you're looking at it. NASA, milder than average spring, being predicted by that model, with no particular signal for precipitation coming out average or has no signal. GM, looking rather cooler for the spring. This is the Spring 2021 temperature anomally from GM. Around average, maybe no signal, possibly hinting at being a little bit cooler for some parts of Europe, perhaps. And the GM precipitation anomaly looks drier than average to our north, so indicative perhaps some higher pressure towards Iceland, lower pressure to our west, and again near normal or no signal for precipitation for the UK and for Ireland as well. This is NCAR. NCAR signaling a slightly milder than average spring 2021. So what have I done there? Let's have a look. This is the highlight playing up. Sorry about that, everybody. So let's get rid of that. And we'll get rid of that, and we want to get rid of that as well. Sorry about that, everyone. Right, so that's NCAR showing a slightly above average temperature anomalies. Precipitation anomalies, perhaps being a little bit drier average to our southwest. So that obviously is more of an Azores type influence, high pressure bridging up from the Azores and bringing like a milder west or southwesterly type spring. Probability maps from IRI, and of course IRI is the International Research Institute for Climate and Society, Earth Institute and Columbia University. Probabilities from IRI not favouring either a warmer or a colder than average spring. So no signal really, or average is favoured for this spring. Most parts of Europe looking a little bit milder than average though. Precipitation anomalies not really favouring any particular outcome again, but maybe on the drier side, if anything, for more northern and western parts of Europe with the probabilities. Talpain's analogues look like this. So remember, Talpain does this a little bit different. He's looking at sea surface temperature anomalies in any particular month. In this case, in January 2021, looks at those sea surface temperature anomalies, compares back to past years that had similar sea surface temperature anomalies, and then creates an analogues-based forecast going forwards. Quite a weak signal for the 200 millibar height anomaly from Talpain, showing lower pressure up towards Greenland and in the North Atlantic, higher pressure to the north of Scandinavia. So probably just rather flat and westerly, I would have thought. Perhaps a rather flat westerly type signal for this spring. He is going for a milder than average spring, though, above average temperatures there for UK and for Ireland. And a rather drier than average spring is predicted as well. So a warm, dry spring. That'll be a nice spring, of course, for a lot of us. CFS-V2 700 millibar high anomaly is really going to town with high pressure, has a big ridge right way over top of the country. The jet stream is pushing off with that as well. So high and dry with CFS-V2 for spring 2021. Temperature now is not all that exciting actually. It is a very mild spring for like the far northern part of Europe, but for Western Europe it's only around average really. So given the anticyclonic signal, you'd probably expect, you know, a higher temperature anomaly than that. A very dry spring is predicted here across much of Western Europe as well. So near normal temperatures, rather dry, but with high pressure in control. That may be, but early on in the spring, CFS wants having a little bit on the colder side with that ridge, perhaps putting in some colder air from the east. And later in the spring, of course, if we're still under a big ridge of high pressure in May, then we're going to have very warm or even quite hot weather. So spring's transitional, of course, but maybe like got a cooler start and a warmer end offsetting, offsetting one another, or something like that might be happening. But anyway, anticyclonic spring from CFS-V2, which will be a very dry spring, and again, weak signals for temperature. Right, that's all the North American models. Let's come into Europe then. So this is how ECMWF is looking. This is the mean cell pressure anomaly from ECMWF with high pressure over and just to the west of the country. Jet stream is pushed to our north, but perhaps on a little bit of a northwest southeast alignment. The ECMWF temperature anomaly for spring 2021 is only coming out close to average or has no signal. And the precipitation anomaly, again, quite weak signals, but does look pretty dry to our west. So I think got like a mid-Atlantic ridge, possibly pulling in the air from the northwest, which could be quite cool, especially earlier on in the spring. Let's have a look at the Copernicus suite of models, if we can do that. So look at Meteo France, first of all. This is the mean cell pressure anomaly from Meteo France. Quite weak signals for spring 2021. Quite weak signals with higher pressure up towards Greenland and Iceland, but also a ridge close to the UK. It's a weak signal, but you expect a rather anticyclonic-ish sort of spring from that, I think. The temperature anomaly from Meteo France is close to or slightly above average, so a rather mild spring is predicted. And the precipitation anomaly from Meteo France, again, very weak signals, no signal really for precipitation. Maybe a little bit on the anticyclonic side though. GWV, the German model, shows this. So again, we've got high pressure, this time more towards our south, lower pressure to the north. It's going to be flat and westerly. Flat westerlies with DWD for spring 2021. Temperature is a little bit warmer with this model, so this is probably the warmest model we've seen so far, or one of them anyway, around half degree to 1 degree above average. Most parts of Europe looking very mild as well. And the precipitation anomaly with DWD looking like this. A little bit wetter than average to our north, a little bit drier than average to our south, near normal or no signal elsewhere. And then we've got CMCC, the Mediterranean model. This one always tends to look a little bit different. This one with lower pressure southwards in the Atlantic. So jet stream might be down here somewhere. That could be a more unsettled type spring, I think, with low pressure like out in the Atlantic to the west of Ireland. Temperature anomaly is not too bad. It's a little bit milder than average with the CMCC, but I would suspect this might be a rather wetter sea. It actually has no particular signal for precipitation, but I think with lower pressure further south in the Atlantic, that could be a rather more unsettled spring. And then we've got the Asian model starting off again with Copernicus, and we've got the JMA, so this is being some pressure anomaly from the JMA. JMA has performed very, very well for winter, I think. So this is what it's showing for spring. Still an ongoing signal for blocking. Really, this is the first one we've seen, first model that we've seen that does show like quite a high level of high latitude blocking, taking the high pressure up towards Greenland. Actually, some lower pressure across western parts of Europe. So a cold average spring is predicted by the JMA. That's the first one that we've seen. It's going for below average temperatures with this spring. As I say, I think JMA's done quite well for the winter. Been up there probably with the Asian Climate Centre as one of the top models. The precipitation anomaly from JMA looks like that. Wetter than average to our north, drier than average to our south and southwest. JAMSTEC temperature anomaly looks significantly milder than average, not just the UK, but through most parts of northern Europe as well. JAMSTEC going for a very mild spring. Also a very dry spring as well, which presumably is a strongly anticyclonic sort of signal, so mild and dry with high pressure in control. From JAMSTEC. And then got the Bayesian Climate Centre again. I think this is one of the top models for this winter just gone. So the Bayesian Climate Centre looks kind of similar to CANSIP's, really, with high pressure, but a little bit further northwards than, say, where the CFS has it. So it's like a Scandinavian high stretching out towards Iceland, which would be very easterly. That's going for a very, very easterly type spring with blocking. From like Iceland to Norway. And it's kind of similar to the pattern we've had throughout most of this winter, really. On and off, anyway. Temperature anomalies are around or slightly above average. Remember, it's a transitional season. So if we have that kind of pattern, let's go back to it. If you have this kind of 500 millibar height anomaly in March, you're going to get a cold month. You'll get a cold average month with that scenario, bringing in those easterly winds. The continent will still be cold with easterlies in March, but by May, easterlies are going to be quite warm. So averaging it all out, the model is going for a slightly, average is slightly on the milder than average side. And a rather dry spring as well, which you would expect with high pressure, dominating weather just to our north. You'd expect a rather dry spring too. And then the last model, of course, is the UK Met Glossy 5. This will go for an unsettled spring. It's perhaps one of the most unsettled models that we've seen for this spring, with quite deep low pressure around Iceland. High pressure pulled out into the middle of North Atlantic as well will send the jet stream on a northwest-southeast line. So not only unsettled, could be quite a coolish spring as well. The model does actually forecast below average temperatures just to our northwest and west. So a rather cool spring is possible there with a northwest-southeast alignment to the jet stream and with low pressure dominating, quite a wet spring as well. So cool and wet to finish us off with the UK Met. Right, so that's it then. That's your second and final spring 2021 season round-up. What do we make of that? I think we have to say, but the signals, certainly from a long-range model perspective for this spring, are looking very, very difficult. Actually, a lot of these models are at odds with one another. There's a lot of variation in terms of the overall pattern for this spring. So quite a confusing sort of season to predict this from a model perspective. Anyway, I'm not sure these long-range models really help a great deal with the forecast, but we are going to have to do the forecast for you tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting to see what we predict. But yeah, definitely from a long-range model perspective, the signals are weak and conflicting. And so not a great deal of help in terms of me getting the forecast together. But that's it. You know, sometimes you have a strong signal across the model output, sometimes have a much weaker signal across the model output. This is one of those times where the signal is a lot weaker with the models. But we're going to have a spring 2021 forecast for you tomorrow. You'll be able to watch it from 10 a.m. So yeah, you'll be able to see what we're forecasting at GavsWeatherVids for spring 2021. Tomorrow, this video will be placed on the spring updates page. There'll be a written summary that goes with it as well. I'll try to get that up for you later on this afternoon or into this evening. We're going to have a weekend forecast and a 10 to 14 day update as well later on today. So keep checking back to the channel for all of the content. But for this video, that's all for now. And thanks for watching.